All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Two Men in Black and White, an honest conversation, the only podcast of record with an African American and white American who happens to also be Jewish and American having a conversation together. Today, we're talking a little bit more black and white. You know, ladies and gentlemen, if you're not aware of the criminal justice statistics, they are staggeringly bent against the African American experience. If you're not aware of the wealth disparity in America, it is disproportionately against the African American experience. And, one of the things that we are seeing is that, no one cares about the health, wealth, and success of the black woman besides the African American community. When we talk about the job numbers, right? President Trump was all giddy when the numbers were on his side, but when we took a closer look at the numbers, we realized Black America took the brunt of the hit. 350,000 black women lost their jobs. It's easy to look at this country in black and white, folks, because that's what it was founded on. Brock Ganeles joins me now from high atop the Hudson River Valley. And Brock, when I talk about the African American woman, look no further than the Texas House right now, where they locked Nicole Collier on the House floor because she refused to have a state trooper follow her around to ensure that she would return to the Capitol because they left 2 weeks ago. They followed her into the bathroom, Brock. She was in the middle of a live interview in the restroom, and they came in and told her she was committing a felony. Now, it doesn't get any worse than that when you talk about the way we see black women treated in America. How do we fix it?
Great. How do we fix it? We fix it by having a racial reckoning in this country that actually acknowledges first our history, as we spoke a lot about yesterday, right. and not that we can't be whitewashing history, but actually telling an honest account of the American experience from its founding and what were the principles that went into the underlying documents that even created the Constitution and the rules and laws that we play by, that we can just acknowledge from the beginning were flawed, right? Like, these were great men for their time, but they weren't centuries ahead of their time, right?
Right.
They wrote all men are created equal, but they didn't really walk the walk, right? They didn't really mean it, right? They meant all white men, right? And they didn't give women the right to vote either, right? So look, great underlying, still probably the best constitution in the world and the best underlying fundamental rule of law that anyone else has ever created. But let's just acknowledge it's flawed. So let's start with the history, and then when we can kind of reconcile the history and be honest about the state of play that we've created in our society and how we, in essence, unequally apply this great rule of law that we put in place, that it's always been both two-tiered for wealthy and poor people, and certainly two-tiered for white people and anyone else of color, and maybe three-tiered because men versus women, right? Like, there's just been a lot of stratification in America. So then when we've done all of that and we get to a society that then acknowledges they're a land of immigrants and embraces that they're a multicultural, multiracial society, then we can at least start moving towards a free and equal society and kind of live the words that have been spoon-fed to us our whole lives. That's how you fix it. Now, it took me a long time to say, so imagine how long it's going to take to actually create.
Yeah.
And that's going to take a lot of people's will along the way, and not movements like MAGA inserted in the middle of progress to set it back 50 years to where then you have to rebuild now 50 years worth of progress just to get to where you were in, 2015?
Right. Right. It's frightening too. But again, these President Trump's assault on museums, right, is the chipping away at the African American and the African American experience and its contributions. He's trying to belittle the value of the African American once again, right? This is what we saw during the slave trade, right, when they were bartering for slaves. This is what we saw with mass incarceration, right? Because the value of slaves is in their ability to work. The value of prisoners is in the free labor, right? It's just a different system of slavery. That's why I urge men and women, period. If you're an American, you need to see the movie 13 because it breaks down for you in the numbers how prevalent mass incarceration became when they figured out it could be a source of free labor. And that didn't happen until around the 90s. And then if you go to a very popular hip hop blog called hiphopisred, READ.com, and look for the secret meeting that happened in California around 1990, 1991. And it was a meeting by a record executive a bunch of record executives that attended a meeting with 5 or 6 men. They don't know who they were or where they were from or who they represented. But what they told those record executives, who at the time were all by chance just managing hip hop labels, hey, no more positive hip hop. All we want is gangster rap from now on, because each and every one of your companies are going to invest in private prisons. We're going to make a shit ton of money, and your music is going to help us fill them. And when you look at the crime bill of 1991 or 1992, and then you look at the prison numbers, and you look at the skyrocket, and then you go back and look at the music, and look at the hip hop, and look at the hip hop that went away. All the friendly storytelling, fun stuff, right? Digital Underground, right? Diggable Planets, De La Soul, Poor Righteous Teachers, right? KRS-One, Public Enemy, all the positive hip hop, all the pro black and brown music went away for gangster hip hop, for that West Coast NWA stuff, for murdering and killing and raping and pillaging. And now we've got what they call pussy rap, excuse my French, where black women are degrading themselves and other women. And the videos just show all kinds of debauchery. So remember I talked about maybe about a month ago that nothing would change in the black community until the music changed. Just do a little bit of homework. All you got to do is go back and look and see when Kwame had his last hit. Right around 1990, 91. Father MC, same thing. But they all went away as soon as the numbers started skyrocketing into the prison population. So men lie, women lie, numbers don't lie. And if you watch that movie, the first time I saw it, I watched it and rewound it and watched it again because I was so flabbergasted. Those Idaho potatoes you're going to have with your steak tonight, yeah, they're all processed, prepared, and shipped by prison labor. Victoria's Secrets, Walmart, AT&T. Take a look at some of the companies utilizing prison labor right now, as we speak, in 2025. And don't forget, Project 2025 is working to ensure that those prisons stay full. Take a look at the American Legislative Executive Council, ALEC, who writes the laws that help us put black and brown people away for long periods of time. 2.5 times the sentence of their white counterparts committing the same crime. So, we were founded on this notion, this black and white, this free labor, and we know it. That's why there was such a stir over 1619, You know, if you don't want to read the book, check out the Hulu special with Nicole Hannah-Jones and find out what motivated her. She grew up in Iowa. Nicole Hannah-Jones didn't grow up in Harlem. She didn't grow up in Watts. She grew up in Iowa around a whole lot of white folk and some black folks too in her neighborhood. But it's very interesting, her perspective and the motivation. And there was no ill intent behind it except to get an accurate depiction of the record. And look at the brouhaha.
Yeah, that. So what happens tonight when Trump walks the streets of D.C. and some performative bullshit? He'll probably, if he can even walk a block these days,
Yeah.
right? You know, if he can wobble his way down a block within he certainly can't walk on the sidewalk. We saw, right? So he'll have to clear a lot of turf for him, and he'll performatively be showing that he's cleaning up these streets, right? And that he's projecting a huge success story in DC, right? This is going to be the messaging, right? The bullshit, right? The fake crime wave, the fake cleanup, the fake success, the fake celebratory, march, down Washington that he'll do tonight. And he'll be like, see how it worked. See how this is what makes America great again. We just have to bring the troops out here and clean up all these urban areas. Right, so it's a racist assault. I mean, we're in a civil war right now.
Oh, absolutely.
Right, and we're really in a race war with, I guess some white people arguing and fighting against a wave of white people that are transforming America in all kinds of ways, right? Be it from education to healthcare to tax code to housing to, benign, stupid stuff like the weather, which is more anti-science than any anti-race or culture. And of course to ICE, which is like really the biggest endeavor, action that's going on nationally and rounding people up. As you were speaking, I was wondering, like, wow, they're gonna fill these deportation centers and they're gonna have forced labor from all these people sitting in these deportation centers? Is that going to be a part of the game as well?
Wouldn't surprise me. They already don't have due process. A lot of them don't even know where they are. So who are they going to call?
No one knows who they are. None of them are represented.
Right. So what are we doing? We're stealing more people. Right? Mainstream media is even saying, Donald Trump plans to create, 100,000, more beds in these concentration camps. Like it's okay. Like it's a normal thing to say in America.
Yeah.
In
that he's just calling in more national guard. I mean, the media is an epic failure, right? But they're right-wing, they're all right-wing owned now, and or intimidated into telling, depicting the activities of the country in a certain way. Like there's so few that are willing to speak out and just highlight the obvious atrocities that are going on around us. But I kind of every day, I'm just kind of like, I'm still surprised that America's not more angry. Like that there isn't more, our people don't notice what's going on, feel helpless and don't think they can do anything about what's going on, or don't care what's going on because they don't think it'll ever impact them.
Right.
And they're kind of fine because they're still advantaged. I mean, that would be maybe a white person's stance only, but I'm still surprised that there isn't more anger, outrage, and uprisings in the black community. I'm still surprised there's not more anger, uprisings, and outrage in the Latino community. I'm surprised there's not more outrage and uprisings in the LGBTQ community.
Right.
I mean, you got DeSantis down there literally doing petty shit, paving over rainbow sidewalks in front of the Pulse nightclub.
Right.
Literally, because that's a quasi memorial. Literally paving over it to remove that reminder of that atrocity? Like, do the log cabin Republicans still exist? Is there still anyone in the LGBTQ community that could possibly be a Republican? I mean, how white would you have to be?
Dick Cheney? Maybe because of his daughter?
Okay, but he's still hanging on to the Republican Party, or is he I mean, Liz kind of walked away. I mean, she hasn't officially left the party because some of them still feel like they can win the party back. I don't know what they think they'd be fucking winning, right? But I think and it just aggravates me that there isn't more. You know, why these groups, all of us, haven't come together and unified. Like, we're all getting fucked. We have a common enemy. Right? We see it. We saw it in the streets of D.C. We're seeing some unity. It's not overt. People aren't sitting there and going, "Hey, black guy, I'm a white woman. Hey, let's shake hands in the middle of the street, and we now agree on everything, and we love each other, and can't wait for you to be neighbors. And hey, I want to introduce my daughter to your son." Right? I'm not expecting that shit to go on everywhere. But we have a common fucking enemy who's trying to steamroll all of us. Like, isn't that enough to bring people together?
Well, and hasn't he done enough for us to know that the direction we're going in is awful? Like, what's going to be left in 4 years? Well, like, I mean, we're already not having elections in 26, right? We can plan on that. Mark that on your calendar, right? What's going to be left in 4 years? Vladimir Putin hasn't had to fire a shot at America, hadn't had to bring any kind of war to our shores, and yet he's destroying our... Trump is literally going through this thing like he's got a to-do list to destroy America. And it's working. Right? Just like it worked, song and dance in the 20 election and the 16 election and the 24 election. We got away with the 20 election. But then what happened in 24? Did people think, this guy wasn't going to be worse the second fucking time around? I mean, this is ludicrous that people are not up in arms everywhere. People need to be out in the street tonight with hoagies throwing them at this fucking guy. Because, you're not going to be able to get close enough, right? They're not going any place that hasn't been secured already, right? This is all photo ops. They're going to grab somebody, shoot Trump over there, don't fuck with us because, I'm Trump and I'm this and I'm that. And nobody will be there to throw a hoagie at him. But, at the same time, it's again, thumbing his nose at a black woman, right, in a predominantly black city, a city that is, so well respected and revered by the African American. We called it Chocolate City when I was at Howard. It was known as Chocolate City. And when the crime was at its highest, probably toward the end of my stay in D.C., we called it D.C., Dodge City.
Okay. What city do you think's next?
Yeah, you know what?
You think it's New York? You think it's Chicago? You think it's Atlanta?
I think it could be Chicago. Atlanta, we're not having issues here. Right? I mean, we have some gang issues. We have gang...
I mean, they'll just make shit up. It only takes one.
That's what I was going to say. He could spin it any way he wants, and the media is going to take it at face value and say, "Wow, you didn't know it was that bad there." Just like they're doing in D.C. So yeah, it could be Chicago. It could be any major city. He's already
sitting here as citizens. We're funding all this shit, right? Our tax dollars are going funneled into ICE. We just saw where it's going to the bill. It's being pulled out of healthcare. Our life expectancy is going to go down across the board, except for a small, 1% of the population. The rest of our lives are getting worse, more expensive, less healthy, less educated, all of those things, right? While Trump's taking more money and pushing more elements of society to the margins or just sweeping them right out of the country. Like we are already in a race war that is being won by Project 2025 significantly. Like they are just crushing America.
Huge.
So the only way resistance can stay nonviolent is if the numbers on the streets are huge and overwhelming, because it would outweigh any even attempt at violence, right? You're not going to come at millions of people, right? And this is when it has to, but if it's only small pockets of people here and there, they're going to get steamrolled by violence. So it's going to it takes large numbers. Nothing can be done on a small scale. The resistance has to be on a huge scale, unless it's going to be guerrilla warfare, and then we're in a violent insurrection. Then we're going to be back to like pipe bombs and different shit like that, right? Then we're in a truly violent civil war. But the only way it stays nonviolent is if there's huge numbers on the streets. We're not even close to that.
No.
No one's even talking about it.
But Brock, why are we looking the world over? In every other place where democracy is under threat, hundreds of thousands of people are coming out and converging on their capitals to let their, tyrants that are in charge right now, let them know. What was it, Bulgaria the other night? They had like 300,000 people out there. I mean, why don't we have that kind of, dare I say it, patriotism, right? Another word that was hijacked by the Republicans, right?
We haven't gotten there. I just can't believe, and I guess I look at my social strata and group is like, I can't believe more people aren't just fucking out of their minds that Donald Trump runs their country and that he's clearly running it into the ground and sitting around going, what needs to be done to reverse this disastrous turn in America before it's too late? Because it's clear this is authoritarian tendencies, and that there's a smart playbook behind it, which they told us about a year ago, but no one wanted to fucking pay attention, right? And now it's sweeping the country. That like everyone's not sitting around going, okay, what do we need to do? What do we need to do? How do we mobilize on this? And we just need a couple organizers and a couple leaders to get out there and say, we're going to do why isn't there just an announcement of a mass fucking rally in DC?
I don't know. I don't know. Who do we need to call to get that done? Like, whose cage do we need to rattle? Like, this is insane.
I don't know. Like, could David Hogg do it because they got all the people out there for gun violence and say, like, we want to take our country back? Didn't Al Sharpton do a Million-Man March? He's probably a little too old now to be like to be a leader of this generation. Right.
We're in that void of leadership.
Does no one not have the juice? We're so connected that we're not connected, right? We're so over-connected that there's no real, what people always said, there's no real integration between people. It's all just on our screens, and no one ever gathers anymore.
Right. I don't get it. I don't know what the problem is when it comes to communicating. It's like we're talking a different language. We're not watching the same TV shows except for Love Island, right? We can't even enjoy a football game without race coming into it, right? I mean, I am so sick of college football, and I know how you feel about the NFL. I feel the same way. I've got to watch it with the sound down now because I'm so sick of the way the players are characterized, and it's like they're not even human beings anymore. And these guys are getting all torn up and hacked up, and for what? For $1, and then they don't have health care. Look at all these guys suffering from CTE and all these horrific injuries. later in life. Guys, the average NFL player dies, what, 10, 12 years before the average non-athlete or healthy
You can't
American?
talk about sports without talking about race. It's just so
You
it's
can't.
embedded. But
You can't.
but because we live in an unequal society and set up that way, it's like you really can't talk about anything without talking about race, right?
Right.
And you could say the same about gender, right?
Right.
We're just two men in black and white, so we can't pretend to be authorities on the gender piece of the puzzle, right? But it's just
Right.
like it's just embedded. It's who runs the teams, who makes the decisions, who are the foot soldiers and the players, labor relations,
Yeah.
who benefits, who takes the long term pain versus the short term gain. I mean, at least there's more money flowing into it, but still,
Right.
it's still there's high priced pawns on the board. And so sports entertainment, you can't take race out of anything in America because America's always sizing up what's going on racially, right?
Right. Right.
Because white people want to maintain advantage,
Right.
and because of that, comes into play everywhere because white people are always keeping an eye out to make sure that they're maintaining advantage. Why I get all frustrated? Even people get into our messages and be like that. Oh, I don't have any advantages. Oh, I didn't. It's an advantage for me. It's like just acknowledge that it is. If I moved tomorrow to China or Buenos Aires or Lagos, Nigeria, right?
Right.
I wouldn't have, I'd probably be fighting an uphill battle. I wouldn't have any connections. I'd be in a society that is not invested in my success. Doesn't mean I couldn't have success, but I certainly wouldn't have an infrastructure or a system around me that was trying to enhance my success.
Right.
And I just say
Right.
that on emotion. That's just the way it is, right? I'd be in a different culture of which my race didn't dominate the culture. So I'd lose certain advantages and privileges that come with that. Why people in America just can't acknowledge that? It doesn't take anything away from you. It's just the state of play in the nation that you happen to live in.
Right.
You could change
Right.
it. You could go live somewhere else and it would be a different state of play.
Right.
So I just, everyone wants to argue against like such obvious factors, but white people in America always they're always keeping an eye out for their advantages. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's the most frustrating part for Black America is that we can't even have a question about race without white people admitting that they've got an upper hand, that they've got an advantage. And and again, there are a lot of people that will, and there are a lot of people that will acknowledge the privilege that they have, and so there are allies. There have always been allies in the white community, from the abolitionists during slavery to the freedom fighters and civil rights workers in the 60s and 70s and 50s. There have always been white allies. And, I just wish that in this day and time, more would speak up and speak out. Because I believe that we know that this is morally wrong. What we're engaging in right now is just morally corrupt. Right? And these 2025 people are just pieces of crap that are disgusting human beings, man. When you think about what they put on paper, they put it on paper. They didn't whisper it secretly. They said, this is what we'd like to do. This is how we'd like to destroy America, and this is our vision. And we hope you'll vote for it. And we did, allegedly. I don't know, Brock. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I still feel like you don't have to be some sort of fantastic ally / civil rights guru, like just to have a simple, do like a simple self inventory of, hey, I'm going to try to overcome maybe the biases that we all have, you
Right.
know, be it racial, cultural, gender, and just try to not like impart those onto the world on a day-to-day basis that you live in the places where you have some emphasis, and kind of really actually, be cognizant of just trying to keep things fair and give everyone a fair shot and fair opportunity, and kind of just function in that way, because we're all, I
Right.
think, have biases. I do
Right.
think we just do naturally. And it's just like being, someone just cognizant of it and trying to work against them.
Right.
It's still, I'm
Right.
still probably sexist at some level, right?
Sure.
Even though I would
Sure.
try not to be. But yeah, I'm sure that
Right.
I am. But like, just try to be, whatever, thoughtful about it,
Right.
and a little bit better than than you were the day before, and all that. And like, if your goal is to try to create what you think is, if your vision of a better society is a fair, more equal, more integrated, you know, you
Right.
know, diverse society. If that's
Right.
what you want to have, then you just think about, okay, what are the little things you can do along the way to get there? And it's not like, you have to, that's not giving a speech in front of the Lincoln Memorial, right? You don't have
Right.
to you don't have to go that far. You just do simple things day in and day out, and
Yep.
challenge others who have the different vision and want to maintain, a society that is biased and
Right.
racist. And you gotta like be willing to argue against that. That's where you have to be willing to step out and not just roll along to get along, because that's the easier way to live life,
Right.
non-confrontational.
Right.
It just does. It's not that hard. I keep saying to you, Mark. Right? Like I don't have some outsized love for Black people, Native Americans, LGBT. I just get that. Like it's just a better world if we create something that's more fair.
Right. Right. And I mean, people would be happier. I can't tell you how pissed off I was the other night when I went to go buy some steak for a steak salad. I didn't even want a steak dinner. I wanted a steak salad. It was $18.99 a pound. 3 New York strip steaks was $50. 2.6 pounds. $50. I used to get that for $19. For what they're charging for 1 pound, I used to get all 3 of those strip steaks. It is insane what has been done to our cost of living, right? Our quality of life sucks right now because of this guy who's going to walk around and pretend he's keeping people safe. Meanwhile, J.D. Vance, who's got nothing to offer anywhere, was here in Atlanta this morning. Who knows what he's doing down in Peachtree City? You know who lives down in Peachtree City, Brock? They call it Deltaville. Delta pilots who are all earning, $250,000, $300,000 a year, right? The top 5% income earners probably in the state, So, I mean, it's what they're doing is not that hard to figure out, right? And there are much more of the 95 percenters than there are the top 5%. Look, Bezos is not going to come out here in these streets and start scrapping. Bezos is providing those ATF jackets on Amazon and those FBI vests and those and all the trappings, of you to play cop on the streets. But they're not going to come out here and actually fight. And that's why the 95% of us need to get up, get off our asses, get out of Netflix, and
Yeah.
hit the streets.
I mean, it's hard not to be disappointed right now, partially because we're losing every day. I mean, I can't remember the last good day we had, right? Like, we argued about it. We're all celebrating Gavin Newsom, Gavin Newsom, Gavin Newsom. I mean, Texas just passed the gerrymandering, right? It went
Right.
through. It went through. It happened. Story's done now, right?
Yep.
That game's
Yep.
over. That's a loss. That's an L.
Yep. Let's see
Now
what
we're-
happens in Illinois, Maryland, New York.
Yeah, down the road. Now we have to
Yeah.
try to get a win down the road. But for today, We lost, right? Republicans beat us to the punch. MAGA beat us to the punch. Didn't play fair, cheated, didn't care about any, norms that have been a part of America for 250 years. It's just like, we want more power. We're doing this shit. What the fuck are you going to do about it? Okay, you ran away to Illinois for 2 months. You come back. We lock you in the bathrooms, and we don't give a flying fuck. And now they won. Now they need to lose in California and other places, but we haven't won those battles yet, right? For today, we took another loss.
Yeah, and California is going to engage in another democratic process to make it more fair to the people of California. They're going to put it on the ballot and see how it actually does. So we got to win that.
Yeah.
Before we can start redrawing lines.
I mean, people have to at least mobilize and show up and vote, right? At the least, if people can fucking do that, it might be the last, fair vote they ever get to election they get to be a part of. So hopefully people mobilize in big numbers. But I'm afraid, right? I'm not confident people are going to mobilize in big numbers. I have no confidence in anything that's going on in the resistance movement to Trump right now. I feel like we're in 1934 Germany, as if we've gotten a time capsule and we know how it plays out. And we're just sitting there and we're watching the society around us just allow it, allow it to happen. Yeah, it's not so bad. Hey, hey, Hitler's got some pretty good ideas.
Yeah. Famous last words. All right, buddy. Good stuff. We'll reconvene again tomorrow. Do it again.
All right, Mark. Always a pleasure.
Yes, sir. Same here.
Okay.
Peace.
Bye.